Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it. You already know. Like a torta with some snack habits. Bye. Bye. Let's get straight to this intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that I stay kicking. And I appreciate the support. So I wanted to touch on a story that I've told in the past, but I've never went into intricate details of the story, right? I've mentioned it in other videos. And because I was asked a question, someone asked me, they said, man, were the Stockton Norteños really relevant in the youth authority and in prison? And I can tell you right now, man, Stockton was never taken lightly. Stockton has always been with the business. Now, don't get it twisted, there was some homeboys when I was in prison that went through the Stockton system. They were in Stockton in the San Joaquin County Jail or whatever it was in Stockton. And they said that the Norteñoism in there wasn't up to par, meaning that they were walking around in shower shoes and they just weren't as educated as other strongholds like Salinas, Monterey County, Santa Clara County, San Jose, the Bay Area, Santa Rita, and of course, Merced County, where fuck, man. Look, it's crazy when you go to a county jail where you're from and you know everyone there and you don't want to be there. Like, it's bad enough you don't want to be there because you don't want to be locked up, but you don't even want to be around your own homeboys because them motherfuckers are too dangerous, right? There was times I went to Merced County Jail, and I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't think I was going to make it up out of there. No dirt on my name, but I was like, fuck, they're going to find some. they're going to make some up. Motherfuckers in there was, hey, I used to tell little homies, look, bro, you better not have any smut. I mean, you better never fucking even talk to a homeboy's old lady online, anything, and try to go in the county jail and wiggle because these motherfuckers are drooling. They're drooling at the jowls, man, trying to get a motherfucker. They're trying. This shit is, I'm flabbergasted. I used to be like, nah, hey, all the homies mean mugging and shit until you get cleared, until you go through the clearance process, the Norteno clearance process, right? Man, they're on you with knives like a motherfucker. Anyways, back to Stockton, right? I heard Stockton wasn't like that. But the individuals that came out of Stockton, people like Soldier Boy from 6th Street, Muggsy, you know what I'm saying, from Pilgrim, Boo from Central, Chino from Triple S, a Mousy from the east side of Stockton, and the list can go on and on. Boxer from Southside Stockton. Look, I was around a lot of dudes from Stockton, California, and I'm gonna tell you right now, the Norteños from Stockton were very well respected and put in that work. Okay, I wanted to talk about a youngster, an individual I met in Tracy. I like to believe that I was kind of a mentor to him until I wasn't. So on this particular day, what happens in Tracy DVI? I've been to DVI Tracy, Dual Vocational Institute. Back in the days, it's shut down now, but it's commonly known as Gladiator School, right? By the time I got to doing time in Tracy, the Gladiator days were over. They should have called it Removal School because all that was happening was Norteños removing each other or other group segments removing each other. The days of the gladiator battles of North and South and the establishment of organizations, prison gangs, where a lot of the prison gangs that are relevant and known were established in DVI, or a lot of them just passed through DVI, right? And reason being was DVI was once 18 and over. So meaning the youngsters that would leave YA, the YA babies and younger dudes were always sent to Tracy. It was always a reception, but it was also a yard that you went to when you were young. And so when you have a bunch of up and coming young gang members trying to earn stripes and earn a reputation, gladiator shit's going to happen, right? So anyways, trip out. I've been to Tracy probably about 6 times. Violations, new charges. That is the Central Valley from Merced, actually from like Bakersfield, some dudes from Bakersfield, all the way to Stockton. You go to Tracy. The Central Valley, that's pretty much who goes to Tracy. That's our reception, right? Now they got Wasco, so a lot of dudes from Fresno, Bakers, they all go to Wasco. But back in the days, you would go to Tracy. And Merced's always went to DVI. And so you would see a lot of dudes there from Merced, Modesto, Stanislaus County, San Joaquin County, which is Stockton and Merced County. All the time we were deep. That was our stronghold. That was our house, right? And so I had a lot of run-ins with homeboys from Stockton. And this, in particular, this day, the way Tracy was ran, because it was a reception, when you first got there, you had to go to medical a lot. They take you to medical. They do blood tests. They do cognitive tests. They're just making sure that you're good. And they're trying to figure out, due to your C file, what you got going on, your prison points and your health, where they're going to send you. And so what they would do in Tracy at that time, I was in H wing, J wing. I've been in East Hall, West Hall, all these different buildings that they had, right? The oil was K wing. So anyone that ever tells a story talking about they were in K wing, they were in the whole ad seg in Tracy, right? Then you had X dorm, Z dorm, which was the main line, which was a level 1, level 2 type main line. It was, Tracy ended up becoming a lower level prison, but they were kept separately. The main line was kept separately from the reception. In reception, you dressed in orange clothing. In the main line, you dressed in the traditional baby blue prison, California prison issue. Anyways, that's how you could identify who was from where. But for the most part, you never seen the guys from the main line unless they were workers, like in the chow hall or things like that. Anyways, they would put us in this big cage. It looked like a mini yard, right? And we'd be in there all day, and they'd have dudes from several different dorms. But they kept Nortenos and Southsiders segregated from each other. And if Bulldogs were there, they were probably placed in the oil because they couldn't function with North or South. And so the Woods and the Blacks would be on every yard, but the North and the South were segregated, right? So you didn't really have no run-ins with Southerners. There's a couple of instances where dudes crossed each other in the hallways and got off, because in reception at that time, there was no end of hostilities. It was on site. And so they'd place you in this mini yard, which was in the middle of all these buildings, and there was a fence around it. And there was the medical facility right there. So they would call you one by one, and you'd be out there hanging out all day. They'd give you your sack lunches. You just be chilling. And so, like I said, because it's several different buildings, you would talk to and chop it up with homeboys that you necessarily didn't see because you weren't in the building or didn't go to yard with. Because certain buildings went to yard with each other. East Hall, West Hall, they usually kept Southerners in like West Hall, and then Northerners in East Hall, or vice versa. They went to yard separately. Then like J wing, H wing, they went to yard separately. And so there was a homeboy named Boy from Gilas. He was kind of an older OG homeboy, right? And right when I went in there, I'm looking for homies, right? And there's a gang of blacks and whites, and everyone's segregating themselves on this little mini yard. And, people are eating their lunch, just chopping it up. So I see a homeboy's big old brochal tatted down. So I'm like, hey, homie, where you from, right? He's like, Gilas, Gilroy, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Merced, homie. All right, cool. So he's like, yeah, the little homeboy right here, he's from Stockton. And we called him Blaze from Stockton. I was like, mucho gusto. And he was like, hey, bro, I'm in your building. And at that time, I was the building channel, right? Meaning I held position in the COC, the chain of command. And I remember seeing his name on a roster that came in my cell, but I couldn't put a face to the name. And now I'm putting a face. He was a younger homie. Stockton this, Stockton that. I forget what side of Stockton he was from, but his TN was Blaze, meaning that was his tier name, right? His real placazo I never got. And that's how it is in prison with the Northerners. You could be with a homeboy, man, and unless you're sold up with them and know him pretty good, you're not going to know his real placazo, meaning his real nickname. Like it's just, you go by tier names there. And that's for safety and security measures. So that way the IGI, the cops, the Kukui, right, doesn't know exactly your real moniker. So it's not being shouted over the tier in there, because they're writing everything down. They're, the gang task is trying to validate people. And so Northerners have tier names. Southerners do the same thing. And my tier name was Gunner. That was my tier name. I just kind of stuck with that name, but that wasn't my gang name. That was just a TN that was given to me by my homeboy Porky from my neighborhood, right? E-Local. And that was his tier name. So anyways, he's like Blaze. So I automatically assumed it was his tier name. All right, bro. Whoop-de-whoop. And we're chopping it up. And, he's telling me that he's only doing 18 months for like stealing a car and some vandalism shit. And I'm like, oh, bro, you're going to go to level 1. And me and Boy are laughing because we're doing time, right? And he's doing chicken shit time. But he's still a homie and he's to be treated equal, right? And he's young. He's like, I'm a first termer, bro. I ain't never been locked up. Never do no YA time. My first time in county, my first time in jail. But I'm a dedicated Norteno. Like I'm with the business. And that's cool. Don't worry, bro. Because he was like, hey, man, if there's any remote, I was like, look, we ain't even speaking on that right now. Right now, we're about to get our blood drawn. We're not talking about drawing blood. We're talking about getting our blood drawn. So we're good, right? You'll be fine. And for the next several days, they would take me to medical and him. And so I got to know him a little bit better. We actually walked there together. That time he was already out there when I got in the cage, but a couple times because he was on, we're in the same building. It's 3 tiers high in Tracy. And he was directly like maybe 3 cells down from me on the 2nd tier. So at that time, my celly was, I forget who he was. Oh, Vico from a Planet, right? From Merced County. We got celled up together. It's one of my homeboys from my county. And anyway, so I go to medical and we're chopping it up. I'm lacing them up, giving them the rundown, how it's going to be. I'm telling them you're going to a lower level prison, but they might send you to some bad yards. You got to get off, bro, until you get somewhere where you can be. And it just is what it is, right? He's dedicated, like, all right, I'm going to do that. And we start talking about homeboys from Stockton. And I mentioned a homeboy named Muggsy from Pilgrim, right? Who I did time with, who at that one time when we were locked up in Tracy, prior to that time, he was a squad leader. Meaning he was in charge of the groups that did the removals and did anything that needed to be done. He coordinated that shit, right? Solid homeboy. Remember, he walked with the cane and shit, just a little young OG. And he was like, that's my primo, bro. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a good homie right there. And he starts telling me stories about the streets. And, you get close. Even though it's just a few days, we're in there all day waiting for medical procedures and shit to happen. So we get cool. And anyway, so I took a liking to him. So I would shoot him huilas across. We'd fish and shoot him sopas, and he'd shoot me shit when I didn't have it. And it was just cool. And a new homeboy gets there. And the homeboy that had that building, he jams. He goes to the main line. And another homeboy from Sanjo comes. He's an older cat, man, all blasted. He's from the east side, right? And immediately, he takes the reins. That's his building. It was given to him. He came out of K-Wing, out of the oil. So he was somebody, right? At that time, when I was locked up, I was a nobody. I didn't have status. I didn't have, I wasn't part of nothing like that. I was just a regular Northerner, right? But I carried myself like I did, which is how all Norteños are supposed to carry themselves. But he did. He was an En Soul, right? A Norteño. He was from the NR, Nuestra Raza. And he gets there and everyone knows he's that one. So he immediately starts revising the COC and putting people in positions, and he's just getting it how he wants it, right? One thing about Tracy Prison DVI was because it was a reception, there was constant rotation. So there was Norteños coming in and out. So it was hard to keep like tier securities or anything. It was hard to keep it like in motion. Like it was always something new, always, right? And when you're a decision maker, a shot caller per se, you got to always be on point and always know who's on your roster, who's worthy, who's educated, who's who and what's what, right? And this dude from Sanjo was pretty educated, man. I could say but he was no nonsense. He was one of those Norteños that didn't play the bullshit. Like, hey, if a removal had to happen immediately. For the slightest infraction, you can get got. Case in point, right? So there's a Norteño there, and I think he's from Madera. He was either from Madera or somewhere out there, Mariposa or some shit, some town that's small, right? And he gets there and straight greñas, long ass, dirty hair, all in it, cucarachas crawling on his back, like just a dirtbag looking homeboy, but he's a Northerner. And so immediately the homeboy shoots out a filter, is like, hey, get at this homeboy, man. He needs to get up to par quick because you need to stay clean, hygienic, all that, right? That's just, don't come out of your cell disheveled. Don't come out of your cell wrinkled and fucked up, right? You're supposed to be presentable, professional at all times. You're representing something bigger than you. This dude was unrepresentable, right? He was disorganized. Like I said, motherfucker looked like Pigpen from fucking Charlie Brown. So we go to yard and the homeboy gets at me from Sanjo and he's like, hey, bro, can you get at this dude? So he wouldn't even talk to the dude. He's like, can you get at him? I say, I'll get at him, right? So I talked to him. He's like, yeah. He's kind of older, probably like in his 50s. So he's older than me. So it took a minute for him to recognize and to even accept the fact that I'm trying to school him in like cleanliness, right? Because it's next to godliness, and he was unholy. So I'm like, hey, bro, fucking, you got shower and shit and all that. Now he had missed showers a couple times, and we got at his celly. His celly was from San Jose as well, right? And we got at his celly like, hey, bro, why aren't your celly going to showers? He was like, I don't know, bro. That fool just bird baths and shit. I said, he does clean himself though, right? He goes, yeah, he does, bro, but he's just uncoordinated. I'm like, fuck, bro, you got to shower. Now, there's rules and regulations in every prison gang, every group, right? And one of the main rules, and this goes across the board in every political fucking gang, right? Every time that door cracks, you got to be ready to go. You need to come out of that cell. Whether there's 100 Southsiders and you're a Norteno, you got to come out. Whether it's the vice versa, 100 Nortenos and one Southsider, he's going to come out. You have to come out, right? So all line movements are mandatory. That means if showers are being ran, get your dirty ass in the shower, right? Because not only are you showering, but at any point in time, someone could come in that building and you might have to get off. It might be a degenerate, a dropout. It might be an active member from the opposition. It might be us going at it with the Woods or the Blacks at the time. And you just got to save face. You got to come out there and let it be known that the Norteno movement is moving, right? And by this dude not showering, he was killing two birds. He was killing two birds with one stone. One bird that he was killing was he was unclean, and he had been told several times like he needs to step his hygiene game up. The second thing was the Vato was not making the mandatory movement, right? He wasn't coming. He was going to yard, he was going to medical, but he wasn't going to showers. For some reason, he was you know how they say anti-Semitic? He was anti-showeratic, right? He just didn't like Irish Spring, I guess. I don't know. But he chose to bird bath. Now, on the main lines in certain prison situations, you could do that in your building, but you can't do that in a reception. It was the rules, right? And so the homeboy gets at everyone on the yard, and he's like, man, this dude's gonna be DP, discipline. So I'm not gonna lie, back in them days, a discipline meant either like a written essay to recognize your flaws and what you're doing, or you would be DP'd by a strenuous workout. But I guess his DP was going to be different. So I seen some homies getting at the homeboy Blaze from Stockton, right? And I could tell on the yard there was a little powwow going on, but you don't insert yourself into a conversation or to business that isn't yours. Even though I'm a Norteno of equal status at that time and we could all should be on the same page, it's not the way it fucking is in reality. And reality is, if it ain't your business, then shut the fuck up. That's reality, right? And so I could see the movement. So I pulled the homeboy Blaze to the side. We're walking the track, me, him, and another homeboy Slimer from Stockton, right? And they're both from Stockton. And I'm like, what's cracking? And he was like, oh, no, it's nothing. It's nothing. He didn't want to tell me nothing. So I knew it was something. He just ain't telling me. But I'm proud of him at that time. Like, okay, he's getting down with the business. So I figured they're probably going to remove this dude. Probably going to remove him because it has to be about him. There was nothing really cracking off right there at that time. And so I see the whole play go down, right? At that time, like I know what's happening. Well, this particular day, I had medical again. Now you got to understand, this was like my last medical. I had to go there for to see if I have brain damage shit, right? It's because I got shot in the head. And so when I go to prison, I got a little bit of a different medical history, right? They have to do a little bit more with me. And so I remember going to medical that day and Blaze wasn't there. And while I'm there, man, you could hear there's cops, like security that is right there, right? You can hear an alarm go off there, like alarm in J, right? And I'm like, oh, fuck, that's my building. It's going down. But they're not on yard. They're not on a movement. So I'm thinking it's celly on celly. Well, what happened was they had cracked the doors for showers. And I remember, man, what they do is they shower different tiers. So it was top tier. It was bottom tier showers and then second tier showers and so on and so forth. That's how they do it, right? But they shower one side first. So they'll shower the whole west side, meaning the whole other opposite side. Then the next day they'll shower our side. So we didn't all go together. There's too many people. And they were showering their side, right? Blaze was across from me. Like I said, that dude was like 2 cells down from him. And I guess him and a homeboy, they got told what to do. And so they went in that cell. The other homeboy from Soho left to go shower and his cellie was in there. And before the door closed, they were able to wiggle in with some pieces, right? And they butchered him. They massacred him in there, right? And I guess they were told that to not stop, to stay in there. They actually got locked in that cell with them. So they were caught no matter what. And I remember getting back to the building. We were on lockdown, of course. And my cellie ran me down like, hey, Blaze, fucking that little homie from Stockton, man, he got with the business, bro. He was all covered in sangre. It was crazy. And I remember feeling like, damn, bro. We're talking about a youngster who was just doing 18 months for knick-knack, paddywhack shit, right? Is now doing all day. He ended up ultimately catching life without for that one, right? He was in K-Wing for a long time. Put it like this. I went to prison, did time, right? Came out, or it was just a violation at that time, but I did a violation, came back. That motherfucker was, he was still in K-Wing, still in the hole, fighting that case. he ended up catching all that time, man, and it was just unfortunate. So for the people that ask me about Stockton, that's just one individual, but Stockton has always been with the activities, man. They've always been different. It's a grimy city out there, man. It's no joke. The gang relations is real, right? And I've always been around some good homeboys from Stockton, man. One of my closest homeboys just trip out on this was homeboy Boo from Central Stockton. And we were in Nellis together. And I remember the day that I left to Preston, he was on the bus. He was already on the bus. And when I got on, I seen him. I sat right next to him. I'm chained up. What's up, Boo? He was like, yeah, I'm going to Preston. I said, me too. Cool. And I remember we're looking down, and Spookio from Islas Casitas, from Salas, is right there beside the bus. And the window's like down a little bit, like a school bus type shit. We're like, Spooky, right? And he looks, what's up? Where you going? He's like, I'm paroling. What the fuck? I didn't even know, right? And he paroled out the oil. He was going home. And so they were taking him out the main gate so he can catch the city bus to the bus station out in LA, right? And I've interviewed him. He's told stories what happened that day. He got into an argument with some 18th streeters or whatever. But anyways, me and Boo ended up going to Preston. And we were in Preston like maybe 3 days. And again, I'm at medical, right? And fuck, man, it's the luck of the draw. And the Northerners and the Blacks got off with each other over a fucking domino game or a spades game. And I didn't see Boo. When I came back, he was in the oil. He was in Tamarack. I didn't see him for a minute. We kept missing each other, right? And I ended up running into him in Corcoran prison on the yard. And he see me, and it looks same big, skinny, goofy, big old teeth. I was like, there he is. I used to call him Goofy. Look like Goofy, right? He's like, what's up, Carnal? What's up, bro? And you know, I just always had a lot of respect for Stockton, a lot of love, man, because even though the city's grimy, they'll steal your flux capacitor. They'll take your whip from you, right? And smoke with, they'll get their smoke on, right? The Nortenos and Stockton have held it down. Anyways, I just wanted to answer that question because someone asked me about Stockton, and I wanted to retell that story in a real way. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly and honestly believe in. That's the betterment of all people. This video is sponsored by Vario Liquors in Turlock, California. If you're in the Turlock area, pull up to the Vario and get you something cold to drink. Central Valley style, 209. Also, by Sticks and Stones Yard Service in Tucson, Arizona. If you're in the Tucson area, man, and you need an estimate, make sure you get a hold of Sticks and Stones. He got you covered like a state blanket. Itchy, pero warm. Guard! That's what that dude should have did. They was booking him.